listening to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MPR. As always, I'm Grady and live on Skype. We got Josh.
Hey.
And welcome to our special episode looking back at all of 2024, talking about some of our favourite moments, some big things that have happened throughout the year, and how those have all knocked on. So one of the things that I'm going to start with, I know we talked about it last week quite a bit, but I want to talk about those women mid-card titles. I think it was something that we had been clamoring for a while, even, before the tag team titles got introduced, having something else there. And then we saw NXT introduced the Women's North American Championship. And I think we'd pitched a few times to split the tag team titles up into two singles titles. But they did eventually get it. We got the Women's United States Championship, obviously, which Chelsea Green is going to be the first holder of, and the Women's Intercontinental Championship, which at the time of recording is still in the tournament to announce the first holder. But yeah, how's it been, I guess, to finally have those mid-card titles in that women's division?
It gives us so much more that we can do with these women. These women are easily the most talented women that WWE's ever had on the roster. And that's even with missing Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. And you have the two main titles, which are always seemingly tied in with the tag team titles, or are always tied into the same people or something. And then you have nothing for a lot of them to do. So they end up in a tag team, and then they'll get used. They'll win the titles for a little bit, and then they don't get used anymore after they lose them. This gives them something to go after. This gives them something that you can win on your way up to the main roster if you're a new person or just somebody they want to build up to that main title, much as the same way that they do with the men's titles. That's the purpose of the Intercontinental and U.S. titles for the men, is give somebody on their way up a way to prove that they're ready for the main title. Or if they're coming down from the main title, give them something to do. So this gives the WWE a chance to do 3 or more storylines with their women every single week. And I'm all for that.
Obviously, you don't need a championship to pull a storyline, but it's just so much easier when they're there. And I think what you said highlights it best, right? That is the way the United States title has been used. That's the way the Intercontinental title has been used. If you think recent memory, think ahead to like Gunther's dominating run as champion. You can think ahead to other mid-card talents that maybe have a bit of a ceiling, and you don't actually see them ever capturing a world title, but they still get a championship, they still get their moment in the spotlight, and they still get that little bit of focus. And it did feel like for quite a while, as you say, the main titles were either passed around the 4 horsewomen, Alexa, Bliss, and Asuka, or were involved in, like they are right now, Liv Morgan involved with Rhea Ripley all year, basically, and locking that title away. And then you look at Nia Jax's title, and they've got the will they won't they with Tiffany Stratton that we've been locked into for 6 months. And so we haven't really expected any contender for those 2 titles to take them other than Tiffany or Rhea. And so all of the other women have sort of just been sacrificial lambs or filler matches. And again, much like I said last week, the filler matches aren't necessarily bad. They're just a match that the champion is going to retain and move forward for. And now they've got something that they can go for, something that you can not hot potato, but you can pass around, and you can do feuds that are not just I tried to get to Liv Morgan, but she's in the middle of her feud with Rhea, so I can't do a whole lot. And so, yeah, I think having those extra options and those extra different puzzle pieces, or chess pieces, I guess, on the board will do wonders for the 2 divisions.
Absolutely.
Is there anything from 2024 that you want to talk about? Any highlights or anything you just want to shout out and mention? If not, I can continue going off my list.
I'm going to go with the all the foreign pay-per-views. Um, when we've had them in the past, it was like one-offs, like just special things. But the fact that they did so many this year, and the crowds absolutely tore our expectations completely away, especially the France crowd. That crowd was insane.
Could have said the
It
Australian crowd.
they were good too, but I mean, the France crowd is like their their pops on that night like tops everybody's list of pops of the year,
Yeah.
especially the Jey Uso one and the Randy Orton one. And I think that's going to lead. I think that's going to actually lead to a WrestleMania in London. I I know I've said many times I don't think that'll happen, but I think under the new regime and the fact that the standard pay-per-view is pretty much dead. It's the premium live events can be held at any time and it not really be that much of an issue. I think we are going to see a WrestleMania in London probably in the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. I think, as you've said, like, it opens up so many more opportunities for fans. We obviously have had, shows in Canada, or pay per views in Canada, um, pay per views in the UK a little bit, and with Clash at the Castle. And then now it feels like 50% or more of the pay per views are around the world. You're giving Australia a big pay per view, you're giving France a big pay per view, Germany, and yeah, those European crowds are always firing on every cylinder when it goes into those, and so it can only be a good thing. It gives different fans a chance to see their favorite superstars and to see a pay per view level match or pay per view level matches across the place, and yeah, it's exciting when a pay per view comes to your. I guess I was trying to find the right phrase there. In America, it feels like you're excited when a pay per view comes to your town or maybe to your state, and then this is like when a pay per view comes to your continent or when a pay per view comes to your country. And it's just such a different scale that international fans have maybe not had the chance previously, or they've come around and they've had. I think Europe's had a couple TV spots there, but a lot UK focused. And so yeah, I think it's only going to do good things. I can't see any negatives out of this international expansion when it comes to pay-per-views. But you did mention WrestleMania in London, which I know has been bounded about. And then, I don't know, some weird ticking thought in the back of my brain just went off. And I remember, I'm going to forget which number it is, an early WrestleMania where we tried to do it from multiple venues at the same time. Is there?
That was WrestleMania 2.
There we go. WrestleMania 2. We tried to do it, and everyone's like, nope, never again. Horrible idea. Is there a chance, or do you see a world where WrestleMania Night 1 is somewhere in the world, and WrestleMania Night 2 is somewhere else?
I will say no because I think they've established that you could have wrestlers on both shows.
Yeah.
That would be next to impossible to do if you want to go that route. I think also it would be next to impossible to do because you would need to split so many things: the staff, the video people, the referees. The Triple H would have to invent a clone of himself and be in both places because I know planes are fast and stuff, but you're asking a lot of a person with a heart condition to do that. I don't think that will ever happen. There is a possibility where they might try the two events on the same day thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that will ever happen again because it was terrible. Because when you had an event play a New York place that got a couple matches, and then they had to sit there and watch a TV screen for the matches in Chicago and the matches in Los Angeles. And the same goes for the Chicago matches and the Los Angeles matches. It was just awful. It's like when you go to an event and you see a pre-taped vignette or a promo, but it's for, instead of being 3 minutes, it's 2 hours, 4 hours. That was why that failed.
Yeah. I I think logistically there's a lot of nightmares to splitting up night one and night two across different venues and especially across different countries. If all the stars logistically aligned, it's something that I wouldn't hate to see. I do think I'm not sitting with maths in front of me with time zones and countries and flights between them. Um, but it could be cool as a surprise to have somebody show up on one and then show up, halfway across the world on the next night. But I don't see it in the short term future at the very least. I think it would be many years down the line if they were going to try and pull something like that off. But you did mention Triple H there, his heart condition, but also him being at the helm now. Obviously, there's been a power struggle throughout the last few years. Certain executives coming, going, returning to boards, being fired, scandals, lawsuits. But this year has pretty much been Triple H having that creative control for the most part. And I guess, have you... It's hard. The internet always like, everything Triple H do good. But have you seen, I guess, in general, a different lens or a different kind of era of WWE now that it's under Triple H for creative control?
Yes, largely the fact that there's been so much more long-term story building, and that you have to actually pay attention to so many things that you normally would not, because it may be a clue to a future thing. I love that. I love the way that many times we've come here on here and said the entire show interweaved through certain storylines, or that one thing led to another, which led to another, which led to another within the same show. And I think Triple H being one of the boys helps with that, because he understands where they're coming from. That said, he has missed on some things, and that's fine. You're not going to hit on everything. But overall, WWE is at its highest point it has been potentially ever, because of the work of the superstars and the creative team that Triple H has put in. And I would also say that NXT is probably at its best that it's ever been with the current regime too. I also want to say one other thing.
Nuts.
A major thing that happened this year, because with Triple H really took over in 2022. So that's but the major change that actually happened this year was Kevin Dunn leaving.
Yeah.
When he left, the production changed dramatically. I want to throw back to when Sami Zayn won the Intercontinental title, and on the next night on Raw, he walked into the venue from outside with the championship, and the continuous camera shot from where Jay had just had a match, and he walks out and celebrates with Sami, and then Sami walks in with the title with his promo saying, "I'm going to walk in the same way I did 25 years ago," and the crowd reaction and stuff, and the camera stuff. That's something you would not have seen with Kevin Dunn at the helm of the video production. That was such a cool thing, and they've done that multiple times this year. But I also think of when any numerous of Jey Uso's entrances from the crowd, and the shots of the entire crowd yeeting.
Yeah, I think the easiest way for me to refer to the presentation prior to Kevin leaving was formulaic, I think. It was very much same, and people had been complaining about the zooms and the cuts and the frantic all over the place kind of presentation for quite a while, and we got to change up to that formula, right? We get those long shots, we get things happening in the background of these shots because every shot matters. We're not just doing things for the sake of doing things. And I think both in the storytelling, in the creative side of things, and in the presentation, the big piece for me, or the big shift for me, has been that we've moved away from short-term moments, and we've moved into, or not even into, like almost back to storytelling, and telling stories through this medium of which is professional wrestling. It's not, what's going to get the biggest pop tomorrow, what's going to get the biggest headline. Sometimes it is, especially when it involves Logan Paul, but there's a lot more in, as you say, little secrets and shots, presenting people differently. Jey Uso's presentation is insane. I have no doubts that he wouldn't be as big as he is now if his presentation wasn't what it has been post Kevin Dunn. And it's sort of, instead of everybody or every superstar feeling the same because they're all shot the same and they all have the same presentation, we're allowed these unique moments and these bits and pieces, and everybody can be just a little bit different. And it's cool. It's fresh. If we stick to this formula for 10 years, will I get sick of it? Maybe, I don't know. But right now it's fresh. And it's moving in a direction that I enjoy watching as a viewer. As you say, those episodes of television where we tell a story start to finish, but secretly throughout that episode we've actually had a B story, a C story, a D story, and about 8 other stories that we're also developing as well. So it's been good fun watching wrestling this last year, which, there was some years where I probably couldn't have said that, but WWE has been good fun this last year. Well, we're way over halfway. I'm not even going to pretend that we're halfway through the show. It is time for our entrance theme for this episode, recapping last year. It is going to be Cody Rhodes' theme. He had his big moment at WrestleMania, obviously. And so that theme, playing for you right about now.
Wrestling has more than one royal family.
And you're back to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady. He's Josh. Did you have another moment or thing off the top of your noggin that you wanted to hit on?
I would say, I'm going to say the work of Braun Breaker.
It's fair.
It's definitely, like we were talking about earlier with the Intercontinental titles and the way they're used. They're either used to be a gatekeeper to the main event, or they're used for somebody coming down, or they're used for somebody who they're elevating. And that is definitely Braun Breaker. He has been so amazing in the stuff that he has done this year. He is so athletic, and he is basically the definition of a tweener character in 2024.
Yeah. Somebody
who you can like or you can hate, but he's not changing. He's not changing his character for that. And that's some of the best characters, really. And he's over, and I do think that we're probably about a year or so from him winning a world title. I have no doubt in my mind he is a future world champion. It's just a matter of when they pull that trigger and how they do it. But I have no doubt he will win a world title within the next year and a half.
Yeah, he's one of those talents that we were talking about, obviously, on NXT, and then as he comes through into the main roster. And he just feels like he's getting better and better every time I see him. Better on the mic, better in presentation. And you're right, it's... I think back again to, I guess, some of the dark years. And when you would boo or cheer the wrong guy, you'd get called your Bizarro World or whatever. But it seemed like with Braun and a few other characters who are playing that tweener role, it doesn't really matter if you boo him or cheer him. He is Braun Breaker. He beats people up. Sometimes he beats people up that you hate, and therefore you cheer him. And sometimes he beats up people that you like, and you boo him. And it doesn't matter. His presentation isn't ruined because he's some big monstrous heel and you're cheering him and that's wrong. You can do whatever you want with Braun because he's doing whatever he wants.
Yep. 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 And I think at the end of the day, I think that was what part of what made the Sami Zayn feud stick out to me is that even though you loved Sami so much, at the end of the matches, you were still cheering your ass off for Braun Breaker because he made you care. And I've said it multiple times, he is the perfect fusion of his dad and uncle. He's got his uncle's charisma and his dad's athleticism, and he's got his uncle's strength. And with those combinations, his future is bright. It's unlimited. And I don't know what else to say. It's just he's been amazing. And another wrestler that's been amazing that unfortunately has had injuries and illnesses that's kind of derailed his push. But I'm going to give you a chance to talk about your boy, Bronson Reed.
Yeah, someone who, we didn't think of a lot heading into 2024. He was there. He was a talent. His presentation in NXT, he was pulling off pretty well, but I would still say that, he had a bit of a ceiling at a mid-card kind of position. And if you believe the rumors, he had a big matchup at Elimination Chamber Perth earlier in the year that he was meant to go for, and unfortunately, the birth of his child meant that he didn't go ahead with that. And obviously, family comes before everything, so he made the right call there. And I remember at that moment in time being worried that I was like, was this his one chance? Was this going to be, held against him because he didn't give that up and come along and put on the show and have the match? And then I don't remember how many weeks later, my time is blurry, but then, as you say, injuries and bits and bobs, and he comes back and he starts demolishing Seth Rollins, and the crowd are behind him, and the tsunami is getting over, and then you have his feud with Braun, and then you continue the Sami stuff, and then you got Seth stuff, and then you got War Games where unfortunately he gets injured again. But his star just rose and rose and rose throughout 2024 from, I wouldn't say nothing, but pretty low down to somebody who is, feuding with these upper mid-carders and holding his own in these feuds. He's not looking like a chump. He's not looking like a charity case being there. And if you happened to do that Bronson Reed title match again, honestly, I'd probably prefer it now than I would have preferred it in January being a bit random, or February, sorry.
Yeah, I completely agree. Bronson Reed knocked it out of the park when he got the chance to show what he could do. I am concerned that the time that he's going to be gone is going to be an issue because people will somewhat forget about him.
His star will fade.
But we've already seen that, and we've seen him knock it out of the park. So we can definitely see him come back May, June, July, and be the same Bronson Reed that he was when he jumped off the top of that cage. So we'll have to see, but definitely a better pace than he was 12 months ago.
Yeah, for sure. And we're severely running out of time. But I just want to throw in here another man who's struggled with injuries and mixed opinions on him, especially recently. But CM Punk, I know he returned last year, technically, but making his televised match return at the Royal Rumble and then continuing through in injuries in his feud with Drew McIntyre. And I was definitely skeptical after his stuff with AEW, and there was this like shadow over the guy doing wonders compared to what I was expecting. I guess my bar was really low after the AEW stuff, and he's winning me back slowly, but he's especially his program with Drew McIntyre. To me, that was one of my highlight programs for 2024. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre was banger.
Yeah. I mean, we've always known he's able to. He's got the gift of gab. He can talk people into an arena. We can question whether or not he deserves that ability, but that's another discussion for another time. But yeah, I'm fine with what Punk does. Punk is at the end of his rope. He won't. This is definitely his last chance, and I think he's being on his best behavior because he knows that he doesn't have much time left, and so he wants to make as much money as he can.
There's nothing wrong with making money. And on that note, we are officially out of time, and it has been great talking to you this week.
Maybe.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D up, our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling R&D up, and we will catch you next week when we take a look ahead. WrestleMania 42, what could that card possibly look like?